So here we're doing a case study. We're talking about the Punnett square component of the genetic counseling project. So this is just a sample pedigree for some random client. And this is our client. We don't know her genotype. We only know that she is not affected, so she's not little n, little n. Do we know her parents' genotypes? No. We know they're not little n, little n. So if in the days before genetic testing, we would have had to figure out the percentage odds that she is a carrier. Well, the only way to do that is to say, okay, what are the possible genotypes for her father? What genotypes could he have? He could be big N, he could be big N, little n. We don't know which one he is. What about her mom? Big N, big N, big N, little n. Okay? Now, just because she doesn't have any affected siblings, does that mean her parents aren't carriers? No. So to do a Punnett square for her chances of being a carrier, we can say, well, if neither of your parents are carriers, your odds are 0%. You don't need to do a Punnett square for that. Okay? If neither of your parents are carriers, the chance that you're a carrier is 0. There is no place to get that allele from. If one of your parents were a carrier, what are your chances of being a carrier?
25%.
50%. 50%. So, whoops.
That's what I meant to say.
I figured. So if one of your parents was a carrier, you would have a 50% chance of being a carrier yourself. If both your parents were carriers, and we can't prove that they are or aren't, your chances of being a carrier are what? 50%. So 2 out of 4 of those offspring are carriers. So basically, if you have one parent who's a carrier, what are your odds? 50%. If you have 2 parents who are carriers, what are your odds? 50%. So if either of your parents is a carrier, you need to do, for that client, you would need to do these 2 pedigrees and say, if either of your parents is a carrier, or both, if either or both of your parents are carriers, the chances that you're a carrier would be 50%. Then you may, hold on, then in your letter, you may want to refer to information based on ethnic background. So if, and I just picked up the CF one. CF is most common in people of Northern European ancestry. Your client's family background, German and Dutch, German and Irish. Guess what? That's considered Northern European. So, based on your ethnic group, it's, you have slightly, you have a 1 in 20 chance of carrying an allele. 1 in 20 people whose ancestors came from Northern Europe carry one gene for this, are carriers. Okay, does that make sense? Does that help? So for this client, you would be making these 2 pedigrees for her, and then you're going to make another one for her and her husband. Let me get rid of that. You're going to make another one for her and her husband that says, if you were both carriers. So let's shrink this. If you were both carriers, what would be the percentage chance that a child of yours would be affected, a carrier, or not affected and not a carrier? What's the percentage chance, if they're both carriers, that one of their children will be affected?
50%.
No. If both your client here and her husband are carriers, what are the percentage odds that one of their children would be affected with cystic fibrosis? 25%. That's the only one who's affected. Okay? These 2 are carriers. They're not affected. They're carriers. So if they are both carriers, it's a 50% chance that any one child of theirs will be a carrier. 25% chance for each child of being affected. Okay. So do the Punnett squares and count them up. We're dealing. It's nice because we're dealing with
Wasn't easy.
percentage. I know you weren't. That's why I said to stop. Okay. Does that help with the Punnett square stuff? Okay, so we're continuing to work. Letters with resources, lots of Punnett squares, and tomorrow we start working on sex linked together.